How are you?
I'm so good. How are you, Tom?
I'm not too bad. I'm not too bad. I don't want to spoil the last time we saw each other, but well, we'll talk about it in a second when we talk about the
Okay.
record. But
Okay.
I'm going to re-ask "How are you" in the way that it, because "How are you" is different now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? "How
Yeah.
are you" is the "How are you" good? I'm good. But now "How are you" during this pandemic means something completely different, right?
Completely. There's actually people are actually wondering how you're doing now, and there's like so many different levels to how are you instead of just yeah, I'm good. It's like everybody's been going through stuff. And there's so many different levels to what we've been going through. So yeah, it's a much deeper question now.
So how are you?
I'm good. Like, and that's always the initial, thing to say. I'm good, but it's like I think I'm all of the things, and that's kind of the answer that I've been giving to my friends and people that I know that ask me. It's like, oh, I'm all of the things. I'm good. I'm peaceful. I'm also like, you know, I'm going through a lot of struggles when it comes to just day to day life kind of stuff because my life has been completely turned upside down, as I know so many people's lives have been. But, as a musician, and my life for the last 20 years has been making records and going on tour, and the going on tour thing is not happening, you know? So it's been a time of figuring out what's important to me and how to create in times like these, and you know how to pay the bills even. That's it's come to a place where it's like we're not really we're not in the same world. It's a different world. And so I feel like we're all kind of learning who we are in this new way of living.
I don't know if you remember at the beginning there was this sentiment that was like, well, now we're going to be able to write that book, or now we're finally going to be able to paint that picture. And I guess it did seem possible that a break would be good for creativity. But, well, maybe I'll
Yeah.
ask you. You said hard to create there.
Well, it's like it's not been hard to create. It's been a different way of creating, and there's been so many different ways of creating that have been awesome too, where I've been doing so many writing sessions with people online that I have never been able to access before. We're all home. So we all have been able to figure out a way to get online and do things. And so one of the ways that's changed for me when it comes to creativity is that I've been doing so many more collaborations and writing sessions with people like all over the world, which has been amazing. The difference is that it's not going on tour, and it's not the thing I like about it is that it's allowed me to branch out in a way that I wasn't able to before because I was always so busy on tour. So I've kind of made it more about learning how to create and how to write songs with other people. So, and that's something I've always wanted to focus on in my life. So that's been awesome.
I want to talk about the record right now.
Yeah.
The last time you and I saw each other in real life was in Nashville, in the
Yeah.
airport on the flight back to Toronto. Wasn't that right before?
That was right before. That was right before. Yeah, it was in like, yeah, it was like literally right before it all locked down.
It's
And
yeah, it's unbelievable.
yeah, I remember seeing you. You were doing something. You were doing um, a bluegrass thing where you were going and interviewing a bunch of different
Yeah,
bluegrass
a
players.
podcast about bluegrass. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that was my very first trip for this album that turned into The Art of Falling Apart. That was my very first sessions that I was doing with my friends. Yeah,
Well, let's talk a little.
pretty.
I never normally ask Serena about the order of songs. Especially in this day and age. Like I don't. When it's not necessarily how I listen to records as much as I probably should. In
Right.
order, and nor do I ask about it. Candy is not just the first single off the record; it's the first track you hear when you start the record. Can you tell me more about the order of the songs and why
Yeah.
that was important to you?
So the order of songs is very important because they're all in steps of kind of my wellness journey. And when I was on my way to Nashville, I didn't know I was going to be writing an album. I thought that it was like, sessions with friends and writing songs for I didn't know what. And I had just finished writing a keynote speech on mental wellness. And that's what was first and foremost on my mind. And on my plane ride there was when I decided I'm making an entire record about this. And so Candy is the first track. And I talked to, so I wrote it with Simon Wilcox, Gordy Sampson.
Two great Canadian songwriters.
Yeah, and Tog Salter.
Incredible. And 3 great Canadian songwriters.
Yeah, they're incredible. And I was really excited to work with them as a trio because I've worked with Simon and Togs a whole bunch. And I actually, the very first time I went to Nashville when I was like 22 or something, I was just like a little shit who was partying all of the time. And like, I wrote with Gordy Sampson. So that was my very, very first Nashville trip. So it was a really nice full circle. And we'd all grown up a whole bunch. I told them about my wellness speech, and I was like, this is kind of what I want to be speaking about, because this is what my whole life is about.
The speech was about like the steps of feeling different or feeling better.
Yeah. So my wellness speech is about my journey, my mental health journey. And the very, very first step that I needed to take and that I took was being very transparent and being very vulnerable and looking on the inside, because so much of my life, especially being a touring musician, is like spent in, press and on tour and around people that I don't necessarily know. So I'm always kind of making these impressions, and they're always first impressions, right?
Yeah.
And so I always felt like I needed to keep it together so much that I never really, I wasn't really authentic in how I presented myself, because I thought I needed to present myself in a way that was like, for lack of a better word, perfect, happy, good, confident. And there was always so many different layers of what was going on underneath, and a lot of really painful stuff. And so the first step that I found was being vulnerable, being authentic. And it's funny because now in this day and age, online social media, it's like everything's turned into a hashtag. But real, true vulnerability is not pretty.
Yeah. I said to someone the other day, I really liked having had been vulnerable a lot more than I like being vulnerable. Like, I was going through my own mental health thing, and I was like, I much preferred when I was able to be like, it's really important to be vulnerable. It's important to open up. I liked that a lot more than like, I have no choice but to tell this person what I'm dealing with, because if I don't know what's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true. Like, you can talk about it as much as you want, but you're talking out of your ass. It's like it's messy. It's messy, and it's like you don't know what you're going to say next. And even now, in how I do my interviews, how I have conversations, it's like I feel pretty naked, and I feel pretty like I don't know what's going to come next. I don't think about, I don't practice what I'm going to say. I don't like look at questions and be like, ooh, like really health and mental wellness is about being your true self and learning how to trust yourself and connecting with people in an authentic way, which is having a conversation,
Yeah. Is that what Candy, so is Candy that first step about like,
yeah.
Deep within, I have to know who I am. Maybe you should, maybe don't let the guy who listened to the song tell you what it's about. Why don't you tell me how Candy fits into this thing?
Yeah. So Candy is about really how I've shown myself to the world in so many ways, and that the outside is very different from the inside, and that inside it's messy, and inside there's a lot of pain and there's a lot of struggle. And, where it says, unwrap me, I'm candy, I'm sweet, understand me, I'm candy, I'm sweet. It's like, there's so many different layers to who I am as a person. And, keeping it all on the inside, it's all right when it isn't, you know, is how I became unwell, you know.
I want to play another song off the record. Take a listen to this.
It's too heavy alone. Oh, it's too heavy alone. Oh. Let it go for your back gets broke. It's too heavy alone. Must be hard to stand up straight with the weight that's on your back. Must be hard to hold the ocean in your arms. Don't be scared to spill a drop and open up. Baby, we can talk if you want to talk. Don't always got to be strong.
That is a bit of Waterfall off The Art of Falling Apart. Beautiful song.
Thank you.
My guess is Serena Ryder. So where in the journey is that song?
This is step number 2, track 2, day 2, and step 2 in my journey, where it's like what happens after you just be completely vulnerable is you cry, you know, you cry, and it's scary and it hurts, and you feel like you know, in a lot of ways, tears have been seen as something that's weak and something to be ashamed of, but they're there for a reason, and they are the most healing thing that I have found in my journey when I feel that emotion coming up. And if you're able to connect with your emotions, like I feel like that first step of being vulnerable can be so hard. Sometimes people can't even connect with their sadness because they pushed it down so deep. So when it comes up, it's such a gift. And after you have a really big, long cry, and sometimes we have like years of tears inside of us, is what I've realized. Sometimes, you know, we've pushed things down so far that there's so much that needs to come up. And I've realized that letting it out is actually the most healing thing that I can do, and has helped me so much. And I did a whole bunch of research about crying and tears when I was writing my wellness speech, because I realized that was the thing that helped me the most. And I found out that there's actually like 3 different healing hormones that are released every time you cry that are more powerful than like any like antidepressant or any, you know, any good scotch, you know, like the things that I used to go to medicate, you know, to self-medicate, were the things that were really pushing my emotions and my healing down for me. And so Waterfall is about that. It's about really the healing power of tears and how terrifying they can be, but how transformative they can be.
I want to be a little cautious here. And again, I don't want you to talk about anything you don't want to talk about, especially
don't be cautious
with this stuff. Well, you know,
give it to me.
You know, I'm getting that.
You're a compassionate human being and a friend, and you can ask me whatever you want.
Okay. So You said all the self-medicating I was doing.
Yeah.
I think about the song Better Now, which I think it was the hardest song to write. I was told this is the hardest song.
Yeah.
Can you tell me your story through that song?
Yeah, for sure. So Better Now was the hardest song to write because when I was writing it, I had just come up on like 2 years of being sober. Sober as in I don't drink alcohol anymore. And alcohol was a really big part of my life for a really long time. And it's one of the most normalized self-medications or medications that are out there. And when I stopped drinking, it was like this wellspring of emotion came up. And it was all of the things that I had pushed down in the nights where I drank a lot. I drank so much, and I didn't realize that it was preventing me from actually knowing myself. And so I wanted to write a song about that journey. And Better Now is the song about that journey, about how painful it was, and about how nourishing it is going through the uncomfortable moments till you get to the other side.
When did you stop?
When did I stop drinking?
Yeah.
2018, October 9th.
That was the day you said enough.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the day. And life has been so sweet since the very beginning. Like the first couple of years or the first year was very tough, but it was like step 2 for about a year. And it was a lot of crying, and a lot of was almost like a daily car wash, you know. It was like I felt like I was going through a daily car wash.
I've never heard it be put that way, Serena.
I've never said that before.
I love it. I love it so much. I was crying so much after I stopped drinking that it felt like a daily car wash.
It really did. It really did. And I'm so grateful that I took that step, you know, because I do know better now, you know. And when I say in the chorus, I loved you the only way I knew how, you know, but baby, I know better now. And, you know, it's not a ride if you never get off, you know?
Yeah.
And it was, it was a lifestyle for a really long time. And my life has become so many different things because I don't drink anymore. So, yeah.
Let's play a little bit of the song.
Sure.
You can't chase the darkness with a bright, bright light, 'cause the sunshine burns you up when you get too high. You can't cure loneliness with company. If you really knew yourself, you'd never get lonely. It's not a ride if you never get off.
There's that line.
It's not a marathon if you run in a race that don't stop. I was killing the pain the only way I knew how, but baby, I know better now.
That's a bit of Better Now off my guest Serena Ryder's latest album called The Art of Falling Apart. And if you're just tuning in, I want to catch you up a little bit. So we've been talking about the album through it's in a very particular order, and I'm going to do the very daunting thing of trying to explain this in front of Serena. But every song in order is a step in Serena's mental health wellness journey. Are there steps left? Not on the record. Are there steps left to come?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing that I realized, where this is my journey, you know. This record is about my journey, and I know that there's so much more. There's so many more steps. I'll be taking steps until the day I die, you know, and the steps are going to change, and the way I get there is going to change. And, you know, I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way. I feel like we have so much wisdom inside of ourselves, and depending on, you know, what's going on in our lives, what's going on in the world, the way that we, you know, need to find our way to ourselves is going to change constantly. And I don't see myself as being healed or being, you know, fixed, because that would mean that something was wrong and that I was broken in the first place. And I know that really all of the seasons count, You know, I wanted to stay in the summer and the spring for so long. And I really like using that metaphor of healing and mental wellness being about honoring your seasons in your life, your seasons and your emotions, and realizing that they're all there for a reason. And yeah, I'm so intrigued by like the possibilities of just being alive. And I think every day can be a learning experience, or it's not, or it's just another fucking day. It's like, you know, it's whatever, as long as you're being authentic and being open with yourself. And even not doing that too. It's like, that's the thing. It's like, you can be whoever you are in the moment. And every opportunity, every day is a lesson, you know?
Can you talk about, well, maybe this is a good way to close. Can you talk about Back to Myself, which is the last track on the record?
Yeah. So that's pretty much what I was just talking about, actually. It's good segue. It's actually great. Back to Myself is about that exactly. It's, you know, there's different seasons in my life, and being sad and being, feeling like I'm in the wrong place because I don't feel good, has changed. When I feel unwell or I feel really sad and overwhelmed, I see that as, you know, the winter of my life. And there is so much that's going on under the surface. And sometimes we need to hibernate. You know, sometimes we need that time and those seasons in order for the spring to come. And Back to Myself is a song about, I know that life is only ever you going away from yourself or going back towards yourself, but you're always going to be there. It's always you, you know?
Yeah.
That's the one thing that doesn't change.
Yeah, sometimes when things get dark for me, I'll literally just kind of touch my arms or something, and I'll go, I'm still there. I'm still there. I'm still there.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, because it's like, you can get so far away from yourself, you forget that you're there. And I do that too, Tom, like, so just to even touch my own skin and be like, okay, so I'm here, and my spirit or my attention or whatever can be so far away. And I feel like that's why people get lonely, is because they're not with themselves, you know? But I think loneliness is so important, because then we can really, really appreciate the moments where we, you know, we do feel at home.
It's been such a hard year. And I think in the past couple of weeks, we're recording this in early March. In the past couple of weeks, I've seen more people than ever, and I'll include myself in this, struggle, you know, mentally at this stage in the pandemic. And, you know, I know we don't see each other that often, you know, at the odd Junos and at the odd thing and this and that, or the airport or something like that. But I felt a great closeness listening to this record. And I think I always knew that if someone talking about how they feel could help. But I think at a moment when so many people were struggling, I realized it really does help. It really does make you feel less alone. And my God, did this record ever do that for me, Serena?
That makes me so happy to hear. Like, that's what I want, you know, like you saying that makes me feel better, you know, because life is so tough. It can be so tough. And when we have this real kind of connection, and if we can be like the actual real vulnerable together, then we'll learn so much, and we won't feel alone, you know?
I can feel the car wash coming on.
I know. That's the thing, is like, I wrote this record about like, you know, being so like vulnerable in my mental wellness journey. And it's like, you know, what did I do? Constantly like opening up this wound.
I could have written about basketball. I could have written about ladders.
I know.
I know. Serena, lovely to see you. Thank you.
You too, Tom. Thank you.